Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and I join you in mourning the loss of every life. I wish that China didn't lie to America and the rest of the world. We could have done so much more to stop the spread of this disease out of China, to save American lives, to save lives in every country, as you note. Other countries that have seen, in many cases, higher death rates. If 5 governors would have followed the guidelines that the president put out, we wouldn't even be on this list. Over 25,000 deaths that should have never occurred, we wouldn't be on this list. But we still would have had deaths because it's a pandemic and we mourn those. But we also want to learn how to properly respond to it. And again, we've had hearings from some of the most respected doctors and scientists on this. Dr. Fauci, again, sat where you were, and he said, decision after decision after decision, that President Trump actually made the right decision. First big decision was, after we figured out China was lying, China corrupted the World Health Organization, who, by the way, everybody had listened to them, and they were saying the disease doesn't spread from human to human. Well, we know that was a lie. Maybe we should have a hearing on why WHO was corrupted by China to do that. That cost lives. But once we figured it out, the president had a tough decision to make. Do we ban flights from China? Now, as you pointed out, not everybody was in agreement on that. Dr. Fauci noted President Trump made the right decision in banning those flights from China, and that decision saved American lives. While some called it xenophobic and wouldn't have done it, we would have had more deaths. Same thing with Europe. Dr. Redfield talked about the decision to ban flights from Europe. Wasn't an easy decision because, as you know, some people were saying, well, if we ban flights from Europe, we've got a lot of Americans that go back and forth to Europe. But President Trump was presented the scientific data and said, we will save American lives if we do it. Dr. Fauci noted, as Dr. Redfield did, that decision saved American lives as well. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of American lives saved. Wish there were none. Wish China didn't lie. But as we sit here today, Dr. Azar, can you share, were you in some of those meetings where some of those tough decisions had to be made? And if you were, was the president's decision-making based on that scientific input that he was given to ultimately make those tough decisions that did save American lives?
First, Congressman Scalise, if I could just correct, while a JD, not a doctor, but thank you very much.
Secretary Azar, apologize.
Listen, the president, whatever you read in the media, I was with him in January, February, March in those moments of tough decision in those early days, and at every step took decisive, swift action without debate or hesitation. When we shut down, when we first on January 17th started doing health screening of people from Wuhan, they had 67 cases, I believe, in Wuhan. This was a remarkable action. January 17th, we started health screenings at our airports for people coming from Wuhan, just 67 cases. While China was still talking about no human-to-human transmission, no asymptomatic transmission. China was refusing to share the viral samples with us or provide any information or allow the CDC or WHO teams to come into their country. When we shut down travel with China on January 31st, the president didn't hesitate, not at all, to shut that down, in spite of the economic dislocation that would happen with our trade with China. When he brought thousands of Americans and others back to the United States, we imposed the first federal quarantine in 50 years, and the president didn't hesitate on that. When the Diamond Princess was docking in Tokyo with all the infections on board, and the Japanese were going to allow those people to get off into the homeland of Japan and get onto commercial flights to come back to America, we didn't hesitate to impose a quarantine on those people and bring them back to the United States through federal quarantine. And we wrestled with Europe. Some people thought it would cause a global depression, shutting down travel with Europe. And yet the president decided that day, shut down travel with Europe.
Thank goodness he did. And I do want to ask you about the vaccine, because I'm very concerned by some of the people that are trying to plant seeds of doubt in a vaccine. Because, first of all, have any corners been cut on a vaccine?
Absolutely not.
Do you think it would cause even more deaths if people were led to be suspicious of a vaccine because of politics, when in fact the vaccine, as we know from these great American companies, is going through the gold standard process?
It would be a terrible disservice to public health to try to create vaccine hesitancy around a coronavirus. People will die.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I yield back.